How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you on a Saturday. I think I've only seen you once on a Saturday, and that was when you did the master class, which you were the inspiration for with Eric back in September, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
even then, I was still wearing leotard and tights, so this is different. Like,
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I get to see you dressed like a normal person. And you get to see me, which is, only like once a week occasion now. Okay, so um, I call you about 8 months ago, and I'm like, hey, do you still like ballet?
uh-huh.
And I'm like, can I turn you into a ballerina? And you're like, okay. What were you thinking?
Well, one, I was thinking there were kind of two things simultaneously. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a godsend because I hadn't really been dancing since school ended. I graduated in June of 2019. So it had been a few months and I was like, oh, I really need to get back into it. But then kind of the longer you wait, the more you worry, like, oh, it's been so long, I'm going to be so bad, I'm going to be so out of shape. And then that just kind of keeps you from going back. And then that cycle continues. So I was super happy that you reached out because I was like, oh, great, I can get back into it and have a routine. But then also the fear, like, oh, it's been so long, this is going to be so hard, but okay.
And then I tell you, I'm like, hey, so it's more in depth than what the last time I saw you, because full disclosure, we had done classes together before and private lessons before, so it wasn't not nearly as detail oriented. And I tell you, I'm like, I am learning placement and I don't have an adult body. And I remember how just what a great student you were. So I'm like, let's go. It's very in depth and we're going to start super slow. And you're like,
yeah, I think I didn't really know what I was telling myself before, but so glad I did.
yeah,
And it really was kind of starting over, which was really great because I think in some ways with my previous dance training, I kind of felt like I advanced too quickly and felt like I wasn't really ready for what I was doing. So it was really nice to kind of just go back to zero and really get my foundation really strong.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you did a great job. I was personally worried because a lot of people who have done ballet for years, going back to like two hands at the bar, like working strictly on placement only. And that's literally all we do all the time is, placement, placement, and more placement over and over again. That it would bore you, but you caught on to it like really quick. You were like, from the first plie, you were like, okay, I feel the difference. And you just kept going from there. And when we like, what people don't quite understand to think about placement is that it has like different levels and depths to it. So, and I know that you have been going through those levels and depths of basically what it feels like. Like, compare your first plie to the plies you were doing yesterday.
Right. Whew. I think I kind of mentioned this in one of our lessons this week too. It's like you you just have to hear the instruction and you kind of tell your muscle to do it and you're not really sure if it's doing it, but you're thinking, okay, yes, squeeze my butt. Am I really doing it? And then after a few weeks, you actually, that muscle kind of starts to wake up and you're like, oh, I actually feel it now. So I think in the beginning, it was more my brain consciously telling my muscles to do it, not quite sure if I was doing it because I wasn't quite feeling it. And then comparing to a plie yesterday, so much time has elapsed that I have developed those muscles. I actually feel it now. And I feel more confident that I'm doing it correctly because I can feel the muscles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, the good part about, I think, the process with you is that, we got to do it together. we were in the same starting place, like, as far as like, I'm a brand new, I don't even want to call it like a brand teacher, but like technician, like, okay, let's get this work out. And you're like brand new to turnout and placement. That being said, the words turnout confuse a lot of people, and they automatically think danger. So your turnout is nearly completely flat right now, and it took you a while to get that to that point. Like, how did you feel when I said we're going to focus on your turnout? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, initially I was like, uh-oh, I don't have much. Because what I remember from training growing up was kind of like you would have your feet in parallel and they'd be like, just open them. And that is your turnout. So I kind of, I kind of thought, I knew you could work on it a little bit and maybe get it from here, maybe to here, but I kind of had always resigned in my head, like, oh, this is just my natural turnout. It's not great. And that's what I have to live with. And I just have to learn how to dance from there. So it was both daunting and also a relief to know that, oh, it is actually a little bit more complicated than that. And it's something you can develop and improve, and then utilize in your dancing. So
right, it's an actual function. It's not just an aesthetic. I mean, the aesthetic, I think, is the part I think that throws off a lot of people in ballet. Is just like, oh, well, I don't have to have perfect turnout in order to be a great dancer. I'm like, well, it's not about perfect turnout. Like, you have been able to use your turnout from the beginning of our journey together, like you have always had turnout, but your range of turnout has increased. But the functionality of your turnout is what is really has impressed me the entire time, because I'm just like, okay, well, I know what my body can do, or like when I'm training myself or doing the follow along videos with Ballet Conrad, but to see that information get transferred to another body as easily as it has transferred to you is something that I feel like is mind boggling. So I don't know, tell me about, because you've had a lot of transformation. You've had the last 8 months have you look like a completely different person. And you're even the way you walk as a person, like the last time I saw you in person, you just walk differently. Your structure is different. Your back is different. Your neck is different. Like, your feet are starting to become even different as well. Talk about like what it's like to be going through such drastic and very specific body changes.
Oh, I mean, it's kind of amazing. I do remember there was one day, because you don't quite notice the changes in the very beginning. And then I think maybe 2.5 months in, I like got out of bed, woke up in the morning, and I was wearing pajama shorts, and I looked at my legs and I was like, they look so different. And it's kind of, it's incredible just knowing that the work you're doing is actually causing a change in your body in a very positive way. And yeah, especially with my back too. I have scoliosis, and it's not super severe. It's about a 12 degree, but it still really affects my movement and my posture. And I've never really had anything quite as dramatic as ballet, or as your training specifically, helping me with my scoliosis. And there's some before and after videos, like my back is completely skewed, and then it's,
oh yeah, I'll put that in so that people can see.
it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that transition, that your reaction to turnout is what I like to call it, because you walking around in everyday life, you can kind of fake it, but turnout reveals everything. So that tendu initially, where you were facing me backwards and then your body went to, I was like, okay, I need to like, it challenged me as a teacher. Like, okay, I need to learn how to correct this and make sure that you're getting the same quality tendus that I'm giving myself, if that makes sense. So it was, there were a lot of awkward moments. Like, I mean, you being the guinea pig, you are the guinea pig. You get to try everything, almost everything first. There's one student who's just a little bit different than you are. So she gets to do other things a little bit differently. But as far like the majority of a lot of the I don't want to say the syllabus because I don't have a set syllabus yet, but what the exercises that I'm going through, besides myself, you are like the first person I'm like giving this to. And when we were working on your lower body, that was, I feel like, a simple part, it was really because you have really strong glutes, which is amazing, which is why I believe why your legs change so quickly is because you were able to leverage your legs against your butt and, your core, just that happened quickly. But then when we started to work on your upper body, we ran into lots of fun, awkward moments. And there were times where we had to cut, your session short, where it was like only 20 minutes instead of a full hour. You want to talk about like what it was like to go through those really frustrating moments?
I mean, it definitely can feel defeating when, you're doing something completely new and your body just isn't used to that and can't handle more than 20 minutes, especially for a personality type like me, where I'm very like, oh, I want to get everything. And I'm like a go-getter and, oh, like so upset. I can't handle this right now. But slowly and gradually you build up from 20 to 30 to 40. And then all of a sudden your back is completely different.
Yeah.
So it's great. And it's also, I have a lot of faith in this work. Like speaking about the changes in my back, I've been practicing yoga for 6+ years. And it has helped with my scoliosis a lot, but nothing like this has in such a short amount of time. And I know now we're kind of working on my right shoulder and my rib twist. And I know it's going to be a little frustrating and a little time consuming, but I have full faith that we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's great.
One of the things I really enjoy about having you as a student is that you do have a high level of mental fortitude. Like you are, I don't have to worry about you getting discouraged for long. Like I usually only have to say to you, don't worry, it's going to get fixed. It's fine. It's frustrating right now. We'll figure it out. Like you and I will go on this adventure together and we'll get it figured out. And usually then I have to go study for like 5 million hours. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, let's try it this way. And it works. And it works. Yeah. It takes time. For one, I have to know you like right now, like as one of my students, I know your body super well. And we already know what your issues are. Your body, especially when it relates to turnout and placement, super well. So it's like, if there's something going wrong, it's usually the right shoulder. Like we know, go to the right shoulder first, press, we got to do some rib work on the left side. We know certain things that are happening. And even still, there will be new things that happen as we continue. I mean, we're only at almost 9 months. So we've almost had a baby together.
A ballet baby.
We've almost had a full ballet baby. But it's interesting that I feel like the best quality you brought to our sessions was your just, okay, let's keep trying. Let's, like, how did you get that? Have you always been like that?
I have kind of always been like that. That's so funny. My dad actually just told me this story this morning of, we lived in Paris when I was like 4 and there was no room in the preschool. So they were going to put me in kindergarten. and the only kindergarten available was like a really top school. My dad was telling me when I was 4, it's really challenging. You're going to have to take a test to get in. And he was listing all the criteria. And I apparently looked up at him and I said, wow, it seems really hard to get in. I want to go. So
like, okay, I'm going.
exactly. So
That's great.
so I guess I've always kind of had that mentality of like, all right, it's challenging. Let's go for it.
Yeah. And you definitely bring it now. And that's like super helpful. Especially like I said, when you're working with like a new technician who's just like, okay, we're trying to get things figured out, especially with the back. The back gets really complicated, especially with scoliosis and having to deal with tension in the shoulders and relaxing certain places, engaging in other places, and getting things leveled out. But sometimes you can't always push through in this training. Like you have to like let where you are be where you are for now. And you deal with that pretty well too. So where does that come from?
I think that has come from my yoga practice. Because there was a time when I was younger, middle school, high school, where I would get really frustrated with myself and, be very self-critical and basically talk down to myself if I wasn't getting something right. And that's kind of how I got into yoga in the first place. And I think, the meditation and the being okay where you are at right now on your mat, that kind of has stuck with me and definitely helped in this work. And I think as well, just specifically with ballet, I've, trained the way I have and kind of always felt like this wasn't working for me. And, I'm doing what they say and I'm trying really hard, but I'm still not getting the results I want. So I think when you presented this opportunity, I was like, I'm ready to try something different. And I'm so happy because I actually feel like a real dancer now, even though on the outside it might appear, oh, we went backwards, but I feel like I went a lot.
Oh yeah, you've definitely transitioned. I have no doubt that when you're fully conditioned and we get you out in center, it will be up to you how you want to go forward with your dance life, career, whatever you choose to decide with it. So when we were dealing, I would say like probably back in October, I think that like October was probably the hardest month for us because the lower body was doing amazing and the upper body was just like, I don't love you. And we were having a lot of shifting. And like I said, sometimes it'd be 20 minutes. Sometimes we could do a full hour. Sometimes we could go a little bit longer. And we get through that. And then November comes and it's like, oh, by the way, adding point work, now that the upper body is starting to do better, we should probably look at getting you on point. And it's like, okay, now we have this new obstacle that we're going to put in our way. But we didn't, we started talking about point, but you didn't actually start doing point work until January. So talk about going from barely doing 20 minutes in a session sometimes to literally months later, you're doing point work.
I remember being so scared, thinking I am not ready for point. What is going on?
Did you think I was crazy?
I didn't think you were crazy. I didn't trust myself or think that I could do it. But obviously I always have faith in you. And
always hear that. Listen to your ballet teacher.
So yeah, I was definitely a little hesitant. I didn't know if I could handle it, if I could trust my abilities at that point. But like you said, we had November and December, and I think I grew a lot in those 2 months. And then when we did go on point, I was so surprised how less challenging it was than I thought it was going to be. And it was exactly why you said, you were like, because we've built your foundation so well the past couple months. And I was like, wow. And then I was just thinking how really unprepared I was to do pointe previously. And that's why I was scared, because back then I really wasn't ready. And the problems that I was having on flat were just exacerbated when I was on pointe. And now that we're starting to fix all those foundational problems, pointe wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, still very challenging.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
a lot of work, but definitely a much better experience than the first time I went on pointe. And I actually feel like I could do this sustainably and dance for a very long time on pointe. And, you know, you've seen those horror photos of people's feet, dancers' feet, like all bloody and calloused. I'm like, I don't know what happened actually.
You know, yeah, your feet are fine. I've seen them. They're they're lovely. You can get pedicures and wear open-toed sandals and things like that. So it makes sense that that your foundation, you know, butt, core, legs, back, now that we have that going, is basically sustaining you so that you don't have, you know, the weight's not dropping into your feet. That being said, you're on pointe, you know, when you first start, you're still 2 hands at the bar. You know, we still we still have like issues to fix. We still have upper body issues, and then lower body, you know, that's when it started getting weird again. But pointe allowed you to basically increase your turnout and strengthen your turnout. And talk about what it was like when you know, because there were a couple of times I put you out in center and have you do something, and then your body would just do things. Talk about what it's like to, you know, feel your turnout work for you.
I remember there was this one time we were doing one hand at the bar, and I was doing a rond de jambe, and I, for the first time, like fully felt my turnout working on my outside leg and my standing leg, like working together. And I was like, I in my head, I don't know if I audibly said it, but in my head, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I heard you say it, because I was like, yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like the first time I felt my turnout like working for me was rond de jambe as well. Like, so normal.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. It's like, this is so cool. It actually works. And, you know, it took a long time to get to that point, but so worth it. So worth it.
It is.
So worth it. And then kind of going in the center, there's been points where I've been really surprised at myself being able to do some work in the center, because it's a little daunting. Like there's a lot to think about, and you have to have a lot of strength. And, you know, in my head, I'm sometimes like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. But just you being like, no, you're going to do it. Go ahead, do it. So I'm like, all right, let's go. And just being really surprised at, you know, the body is so malleable and changeable, and like can really grow quickly, and really, once it understands what to do, it can do amazing things.
Oh yeah.
So it's been really great sometimes to be in the center and just do a tendu and be like, I don't know how I'm doing this, but I'm doing this.
Because, okay, this was something I was just with another teacher, and I was trying to explain to her, you know, getting you over your axis. Now, we just, full disclosure, got you over your axis, I want to say in like January, like where you're feeling the full power of your underbuns and, or, you know, the muscles under your leotard, like pushing you forward, and you will, you know, falling forward. So you go from that to one hand at the bar in like weeks. But you're able to continue, like literally, because we built up to 16 to 20 exercises at the bar with both hands at the bar, and we're doing that now pretty much with both hands at the bar. Now you're doing that with one hand at the bar. So Okay. And then when I told you, I was like, this is going to be your last week at the bar. And then you showed up on Monday and you were surprised. I don't know why you were surprised, but you were surprised. And I was like, nope, one end of the bar. Let's go. And we really haven't had a whole lot of issues, like a lot of transition issues. In fact, your strength has increased rapidly, like super rapidly. Like the first week you did one hand at the bar, you could barely stand in second position in the center by yourself. Like there's all kinds of issues. And now you're like, can practically do a pirouette, with one hand at the bar. Talk about like what it's like to get, for your progress to be, I don't want to say slow, because none of this has been slow for you at all, but to be so incremental in the beginning, and now it's just skyrocketing, and we're going to have to transition you quicker, in your one hand at the bar ventures.
Yeah. It just kind of blows my mind. I kind of had a feeling a little bit last week and really this week, one hand at the bar, where I was feeling like, I actually kind of feel like I know what I'm doing now. And it's really great to feel, like I have some coordinations kind of almost like muscle memory, and then to really be able to focus on the tinier things, like my ribs and, the smaller, more hard to detect changes.
Yes. Oh yeah. The things you don't know that are causing problems Yeah. Those things.
Yeah. So that's a great feeling to kind of be able to find the specificity in your posture and your technique. Whereas in the beginning, it was more just building those coordinations, which was great too. And if that hadn't happened, then what I just described couldn't have happened. But it was a different challenge. In the beginning, it was building those muscles and, building that initial strength to even, even stand in first position with two hands at the bar. And now it's kind of transitioned to those muscles are built, the coordination's there. It's like focusing on the smaller things that kind of get in your way. Now I have like the mental space to think about that.
Good. Yeah. So I know like we didn't do any type of weight check, or, like we didn't measure you or anything. But your aesthetic has clearly changed, like quite a bit. And one of the questions I get from and this it's not really ballet people, it's actually more like other fitness people, is, oh, are you preaching like diet change to her? And are you doing this? And are you doing that? So let's just, talk about like what I told you. Tell them what I told you.
I'm like, no, in fact, she tells me to eat more.
I'm like, please eat.
Yeah.
That was like my plea in the beginning was like, listen, you're going to be strength training on a daily basis, 5 days a week. I need you to eat when you're hungry, and you're probably going to have to increase your calories as you get stronger so that you can maintain and, and keep increasing your amount of strength.
I've never received any feedback or any insinuations that I should go on a diet or anything like that with you, which is great because I know it can be pretty prevalent in the ballet world. So yeah, no, it's, you eat like a normal human being. In fact, possibly eat more because we're doing intense training. So,
I mean, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? I was like, hey, you're going to need to increase calories again because you're doing more. Third position, we're doing more cross positions and stuff now with one hand at the bar, which is awesome because your third position is looking amazing. I'm like, yes, we're on the right track. But I did. I was like, hey, you may want to have another snack in the day. Why don't you, throw that in there, get plenty of sleep. Also, you're really good at recovery. We don't have too many issues. Because some students will come in and they're like, you have some, they haven't done any body work or whatever. Do you want to talk about like some of the things you do to care for yourself after our sessions?
Sure. I definitely do some hip stretches. Kind of right after we end, I like to go up against the wall and do second position and let gravity push my legs down. And then after that, I typically roll out my buns, my upper back. And then I like to do the shoulder opener over a bolster.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'll do, if I'm really feeling it in my hips, maybe I'll do a pigeon. And then, I also like to stretch my hamstrings. My hamstrings get pretty tight after class. So I'll either do that on the bar or just kind of legs out in front of you and fold forward. So yeah, I definitely like to hit the glutes, hips, hamstrings, and back.
Awesome. Cool. Very nice. And do you get to have your favorite foods whenever you want?
Yeah.
I'm just like, for most people, I'm just like, just don't overdo it with the processed sugar. Like, have your little thing on the weekend, but don't, sugar, processed sugar, especially.
Yeah.
It's like, but fruits, vegetables, eat regular food. You're fine. I feel like most adult women, especially, most adult women are fine as long as they're eating. As long as they're eating somewhat healthy, we can kind of guide them to make the best options without overdoing it on like, you need to start. I'm never going to ask you to decrease your calories. I might ask you to change the type of calories you're consuming if, we see that progress is slower than maybe it should be. And you're not, you come in and you're lethargic, like you're tired or something, but that's never been a problem with you, especially considering like you come in right after work, like you like leave and you in your leotard tights, ready to go. You've also, I feel like one of the really special things about you is that like, there were times where I was like, hey, we're doing great. Our progress is good, but I need you to do blank or blank so that I can get more information as a teacher, because most of our sessions, like at this point, 98% of our sessions have been online, have been, through Zoom. And we're just now getting to the point where we can do once a week, in person. And because of the change, like, what was the first thing you did? You got a ballet bar. That was the first piece of progress. Yeah. But hey, it's a starting place, and we still got progress. We still were able to do a lot of things, but I was like, well, we need to do more quicker, and I need to be able to see more. And then I was like, hey, would you mind hooking up 2 devices to Zoom? That way I can see more of you and give you even more detailed corrections. And it helps me as a teacher to go, okay, this is going right. Da, 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 da. And then, me, I'm not shy. I will take a picture of like what the issue is and say, hey, we have this going on, like, let's fix this. And we've also, you and I have had to come up with some really creative ways to like fix things, because most of, we didn't start seeing each other in person until, 6 weeks ago. So when we were going through hell in October, November-ish with your back and stuff, we were like, okay, how do we figure out how to put this sensation in your body so that your back isn't doing this, or that you're, that you can feel this part when that's going on. And you were quite inventive and excellent at like getting it and understanding it, especially when it came to your neck. I remember.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You remember the neck?
Yeah. I'm very like forward Gotta.
Yeah, it happens. I mean,
Yes.
we want to type this way. We want to look at our phone, like I'm personally dealing with that issue. And so I know it's tough to deal with that kind of stuff. You want to talk about like the frustration of of me going, hey, you are here. Cause I'm not a mean person, but I am very straightforward, very like upfront, like we have this issue and we need to figure out how to solve it. And right now I don't know how to solve it, but we're going to get it together. How is it to be like part of the think tank?
I mean, I remember my most frustrated moments were when, let's say, when we were working on my neck, I would consciously think, okay, neck back. And I would, in my head, I'm like, I'm putting my neck back. And then you would give me a correction, neck, like put your neck back. And in my head, I'm like, I am. I'm like, wait, I have to go more? I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, this feels so wrong. So that's also the challenging part. When you're correcting a habit, it feels just so wrong at first. And it almost feels like you're kind of going in the other direction. Like, even though my head was normal, I felt like I was like this. But then when you showed me the photo, I'm like, oh, that is exactly where it's supposed to be. So I think that mix of being able to be on Zoom, kind of a silver lining of Zoom, and being able to capture where I'm at is really helpful in kind of assuaging my brain, like, oh no, you're not super far back. You're exactly where you need to be. And then that feeling of me thinking, that feeling like, oh, I'm really, really far back, eventually goes away.
Yeah.
And then that happened with the back too. I remember we had to go up against my wall so I could kind of feel what it would feel like if there was pressure. So we made do. So yeah, the frustrating part is just handling those feelings of, oh, I feel like my body is so not in the right place. But then having the teacher, having the photographic evidence that, no, this is actually right. Then you kind of trust, again, the trust where you are. And then eventually that feeling goes away. And then you're able to kind of put yourself in the proper alignment eventually.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, and I'm going to just kind of give a generalization for all ballet teachers, no matter what they're teaching. Corrections, like, sure, we're correcting in a sense, but it's part of the process. Like especially when it comes to Ballet Conrad, I want to be really very specific. None of this is natural. Turnout is not natural. This is not something anybody's born with. I don't care how like gifted you may be physically. Everybody has to earn every single thing they get in ballet. Like, and so we know, like the people who are training you, we know that you're going to fall apart. Like we know that there are things that we have to look out for and stuff, and then, put you back in place so you can train it so it's not like we're saying you're doing something wrong. We're just trying to make sure that while you're in this process of doing something that's completely unnatural, that your body does not want to do, your body doesn't want to do any of this, that we're setting you up for success. So it's like, I want students to take away from this, that, it's not a correction per se. It is a direction. It's like we know you're trying your best. Like I, as a student, am always trying my best. And I've never really met too many students, especially with, this specific training, that aren't giving that. They just are unaware. And that's one thing about the Zoom, that I have learned as a teacher. I will take technology with me forever in the studio from now on. Like I am always going to take photos and videos, because it has helped not just you, but literally every single one of my students. It's helped them see their, their placement, certain things that, we need to work on. Also, it is help them see their improvements, because you guys don't even know that. Like, I remember when I saw your legs, and I was like, have you seen, I'm sorry, like, I was just like fascinated, like, oh my God, her legs, we're still working on our alignment, but her legs,
Mm-hmm.
we're still, we still have issues, but it was cool to see that, throughout this suffrage,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
our,
it's important, especially because the work can get so frustrating at times, and we're so eager to achieve that next goal. It is really nice to kind of pause and be like, oh, I have come a long way. And you, again, having faith in the work, like you're at a tough spot now, but same thing. When you look at this photo compared to today, like you're going to look at where you are now and then 6 months from now and then see the improvement there. So,
yeah. So you went to, well, you were in like a traditional kind of ballet program when you were younger, so somewhat.
I got into theater in middle school, and my high school has a really good theater program, or it when I went there, it had a really good theater program. So I thought, oh, to be competitive, I need to, start dancing. So I joined my high school's dance program. And we did everything. We did ballet, we did jazz, we had some hip hop, contemporary, modern, lyrical, but it was a lot of emphasis on ballet. And I kind of fell in love with dance. It was originally like to supplement theater, but I really, really loved it. And I worked really hard. And I think that contributed to me getting into UCLA later as well. So I wasn't a ballet baby. I didn't grow up doing ballet like a lot of my dancer friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, when I got into it, I gave it a lot of effort and fell in love with dancing and wanted to get better. So I didn't really start until I was 14.
Okay. So yeah, that's fine. I actually started when I was 14 too. But so when I started as a 14-year-old, I was taught more so the aesthetic of ballet. Yeah, you too. So it was about, yeah, like you want to describe some of the differences, I mean, between like Ballet Conrad and using placement and turnout as the basis of your foundation versus, traditional ballet classes?
Sure. I mean, this is like so funny to me after training in Ballet Conrad, but I remember one of the first ballet classes I took my freshman year of high school. One of the first classes, we were just standing in first, and we were like working on port-de-bras and how your arm should look and how your hands should look. And I remember my teacher making fun of me because I like went like this, I was like, oh, this is the hand, right? And she was like, don't hold a hamburger. And I was like, oh, okay, it's more like that. So we were focusing on such like the little details, and now going through Ballet Conrad, it's like we're not even touching port-de-bras for a while.
No.
So
we don't even touch toes. Like I don't even like I'm like, whatever. We'll get to that later.
It was definitely aesthetics. And I remember they were kind of teaching us what all of the moves were, like what is a plie, what is a tendu. So it wasn't quite the correct muscles on how to do it correctly or functionally. It was more just like, it looks like when your foot comes out and in.
Point your toes to the side.
Yeah.
Get back in,
Exactly. So it was very, it was more external, not internal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotcha. Makes sense. And then now it has flipped completely. Mm-hmm. I'm like, don't even think. Don't even like, I don't care about your feet. Like, we're just now starting to get to some foot things where we're kind of stretching out your feet a little bit, and it's very specific. It's like, okay, we do, and it's not overemphasizing flexibility at all. We're just like, stretch because you kind of need to. Like,
Mhm.
so when I initially found Ballet Conrad, and I, was binging and going through the material and starting to study years ago, it changed my perspective of what ballet is and what a great ballet performance is and what to really strive for as a dancer. Like, I'll give you an example. I care more about a sustained performance that brings the audience like a certain level of, whatever I'm trying to portray, like joy or sadness or, something that's very thoughtful, versus having the highest extensions or doing a bunch of pirouettes, even though this training allows you to get to that point where you can have, those things that people, especially ballet students, aspire to have. How has since doing this and since August, how has your perspective changed about ballet?
Um, I think there was definitely a time where, I mean, I've always kind of had a curvier body type, and I always felt like ballet wasn't really the place for me. And I would see a very specific, like very lean and straight and like no curves at all on these ballerinas. And I was like kind of attributing their success to that and thinking like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that. And no matter how hard I try, it's like, that doesn't, I can't help it. Like, I'm not going to be successful. And I've always kind of looked at those dancers and the way they danced and been like, oh, it's so like magical and like it's like reserved for those few people. But through Ballet Conrad, it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter your body type. It's like how strong you are and like your ability to integrate the coordinations. And I no longer think ballet is reserved for a certain select few. It's like, no, your strength is an asset. And yeah, it's been really nice, really refreshing to feel like, oh, ballet is something I can do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, without a doubt, I feel like I've always seen full ballet potential in you since I've met you, like in 2018 or something, maybe even earlier than that. So to me, it was very interesting when I would hear you say certain things about yourself and your limitations towards ballet. And I was like, why did she think that? Like I just, like, you just have like a natural grace. And I think because you're involved with musical theater and just, the arts, that gives you an advantage, I feel like, more so than a certain body type for ballet. And so, like, I was like, I don't know why she's here. Like, in my own mind, I'm like, I think a lot of people, but then again, I have to remember that those same limitations were put on me. Like, I'm a thinner athletic body type, but I was still told, I didn't have the right body structure. Yeah, it's true. At certain points, like, I was told I did have the right body type, and then I was told I didn't have the right body type. And then, it was, I find out now, it was probably based on what they felt my limits were, and of course, do not tell me I can't do something, because don't. It only challenges, I think. You're a very similar personality type where you're like, no, 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 I will tell you what I can't do. You're not going to tell me anything. And so I know I have appreciated, like, I'll show you certain performances that I feel like, are just grand, in ballet, and especially from the Soviet era. And I'm shocked because I love them, but I'm also an old soul, and I'm just like, and I'm studying this stuff all the time. 11, 12 hours of my day is dedicated to this at this point. So, my eye is becoming more trained as I do it more often, but to see gravitate towards these performances as well, I think you want to talk about like some of your favorites and like what inspires you now and what you want to bring?
I'm blanking on which one it was called, but it's it was the duet. It was like the couple, the boy.
The Moskowski waltz. Yes.
Yeah, it's
okay.
I just loved it. It was so relatable. Like I found myself thinking of my current relationship, and just like it was so emotive, and I was focused a lot more on the story they were telling, and the expression through dance and what they were trying to say through the dance rather than just the dance itself, which was beautiful. And it wasn't, and of course they were both beautiful dancers. And their ability to kind of let the dancing go and tell that story just made it that much better.
Yeah. And that was that video in particular that I showed you, that was a comparison video. So you had like the more modern,
right.
Yeah, you could barely remember them. Because what I love about that performance absolutely is that both of the duet, they were not considered gorgeous. Neither one of them were supermodels in any way, but they stole my heart. And it wasn't like, well, they weren't beautiful, but it was like, this is what I want from everyone who tells a story about love. Like I felt so invested, like completely invested compared to the other couple. I didn't even know what they were doing.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys should check out that video. I'll leave a link in the description box so you can see the differences between the performance, because it was night and day. I especially did not care about any of the tricks that they were doing. They were amazing at them. That was the best part, is like, it was like there were moments in that performance that really clicked for me, that made me go, oh, so it really is about dancing. It's not about, being this circus act.
And they were having fun too. And you can feel that. And, sometimes you watch a performance and the dancer, like right before she turns, like you can see the anxiety, or if a routine is really hard, like you can see the dancer kind of like heaving, and it takes you out because you're like, oh, I feel bad for this performer. Whereas when you were watching this dance, they were in it themselves. They weren't focused on, the movement or the execution. Like that just came.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
That's awesome. I know. I'm glad that I get to share those kind of things with you. It makes it, I feel like for me as a dancer myself, as a technician, as a future choreographer, it allows me to understand the real psychology of like the audience and of performance. So it's like, it's cool that we can like share that together and go, oh my God, did you see this? Like, did you? And I showed you some non ballet performances that were, where they had all of this going on upstairs, and we have no, like, we are not educated in pas de ballet, but we knew what we enjoyed.
Mhm.
And, my goal ultimately is to make dance the medium that it really should be, as far as like storytelling. It should have a place right next to music, right next to film, right next to theater, where it is bringing just as much relevancy to the culture and to like how we live in our environment as those other things.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yes.
And I'm like so on that journey with you and want to see
Yeah.
that happen.
Yeah, hopefully we can pull this off, because I'm like, I think I was saying to you literally every other week, I was just like, I don't know how we got this far online.
Yeah.
Because it was like, it wasn't supposed to work. Like I was told that it was going to be subpar, and like obviously we got to get you in person more to continue your strength building, but it's just, even to get as far as you did, it was like, so I'm really, thank you, one, for doing this interview. I'm so glad that you agreed to talk about this. And I was like, I want people to hear from the students themselves. And there's one more question I want to ask you in regards to turnout. So turnout is very, very complicated. Full disclosure, it takes about 12 hours, I feel like, of just studying to kind of really understand its function, what it does. And I think it's easy for teachers, instructors, anybody who's giving this to like overwhelm you with information. Okay, this muscle does this, the muscle does that. Do you feel like, with the way that I applied Ballet Conrad to you, that you were either overwhelmed or felt like you had to understand everything about turnout?
No, I think it was very piecemeal, like we've been talking about, and you kind of start with the things everybody kind of knows, like your general butt muscles. Okay, use them, got it. And then when you kind of get that down, then you go more specific. Like, I mean, this is quite a bit later, but like the under butt muscles. So it's and in the very beginning when we were just working the like classic normal butt muscle, like I had no idea what turnout really was, but I knew the butt muscle. So it's like you kind of start with that general knowledge, and then when you start building, then the knowledge increases, the muscle knowledge increases, and then you kind of start feeling things more, and then you connect the words to the feeling, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting it a little more. Yeah, I'm getting what turnout is a little bit.
Good,
um,
good. I just wanted to like make sure you weren't overwhelmed, because you are quite smart. You are very, very smart. And it's helpful. Like it's very, very helpful that, I don't want to say get into the weeds, because I try not to with any of the students, because why? I just need them to understand a sensation. But every now and then, so that you can understand more and we can progress you a little bit further, we'll go into some of the specifics, and you like gravitate towards it. Like you are very curious about it and want to understand more. So
also, a great thing with you is you're very open to questions. And I've had some teachers growing up where it's kind of like, you don't ask a question. So if I ever was confused, or if I wanted clarification, or if I was like, in my head, knew what the coordination was, but wasn't quite sure the order to do it, like I never felt that I couldn't ask you.
Like you just completely transitioned to a coordination and you didn't even realize it. Like I was like, the new coordination, whatever. And you're like, wait, so what's the order again? I'm like, you're literally doing it. Like, so it's like, because just as a teacher, you don't want to go, okay, here's turnout, good luck, and then the students thinking about 36 things when you have one job, in the beginning 3, but it's ultimately one job. And just to listen. So you've been awesome. And I personally am very excited for your dance future, however you choose to pursue it. Do you want to share what I mean, especially from the phone call till now, you're like,
I mean, I mentioned earlier how I always kind of thought ballet was reserved for a select few, and I never saw myself being able to do anything with it. But now I actually feel like on the path we're going, and in even a few months from now, and then definitely a year from now, and then it's like I can see myself being a very, very different dancer from what I used to be. And I think I would have much more of a shot at doing anything performance wise, whether it is just a straight dance show, even a theater show, being in an ensemble, to in like a really heavy dance show like chorus line. Like I actually see that as a possibility for me now, which is, I mean, not like right now, but
no, I mean, you can apply placement honestly from day one. You can apply it to your dancing. So it's not like that is, that's not a reach in a stretch. So yeah, I see that and obviously support it. So it's really cool. I'm like, yay, I want to help you. I get to be part of that. And I mean, like I said, really, you have so many artistic, cool things about yourself, like about your persona. And so it would make sense that, being told, hey, you don't belong in the ballet world, to, hey, I can do whatever I want, like you can fulfill your thing with the right education. Do you have anything that you would like to say to other late starters, adult ballerinas who are just like hesitant to get involved? Because I get this question a lot, which is it too late for me? And does Ballet Conrad really work? What would you say?
Okay. One, yes, Ballet Conrad works. I have seen results in such a short amount of time that I've wanted for so long. So that's amazing. And then two, I don't think it's too late at all. Plus, even if you think, oh, it's too late for me to have a career, I mean, maybe, but there's still so many benefits.
I don't believe it. I'm like, no.
But there's still just so many benefits to doing the training and this kind of work, that it's like, it's never too late to incorporate something super healthy in your life. And, things, it's never too late. It's never too late to do anything. It's never too late to do anything.
Good. Yeah. Especially, I get a lot of, I see a lot of posts, and I get a lot of messages from like women in their early 20s that are just like, is it too late for me to start ballet? And I'm like, you have no idea what an advantage you have. You have no idea. You don't really have a full family yet, like and you have time. You have time. Like, that's the part, is like, you have to have time to, take care of yourself and do the training in order to make this work. And, later on in life, if you have kids and, full life, it's harder to have that time. It's mostly time and dedication up here that you need. So yeah, I agree with you.
Part of the narrative too, it's like, oh, ballerinas are only this certain body type and they've been dancing since they were 3. And I think that kind of deterred me. I was like, oh, I started when I was 14. There's no way. But yeah, I'm all for, let's break that narrative, and you can start whenever.
Just the fact that somebody is career planning for a 3-year-old bothers me. I don't like that is. But that's my personal thing, y'all do you. But I will not be asking what my 3-year-old wants to do with their life. Let's have you live first. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.